In this demonstration, I'll walk through the steps of how to set up a template drawing. There's three things you need to know before you even start the drawing. What is it you're going to draw? I want to draw a floor plan. What units will I use? I'm going to use architectural units. What sheet size do I want to use? 22 by 17 sheet size. And then the scale of the drawing that I determine, 1/4 inch equals a foot, will be the scale that I use for this drawing. So those are things that I determined before I even start the drawing or start working with the template. So I have on your screen 22 by 17 sheet size and 1/4 inch equals a foot scale, just so that you can remember those sizes when I'm calculating limits. So the first thing I'm going to do is set my drawing units. I go to Format, down to Units, and I can change that to Architectural. In Precision, I'm going to set to 1/32. I'll leave the angles to decimal degree and 0° precision, and all I have to do is say OK. You can also do this starting a new drawing using a wizard. I chose to start a drawing from scratch, and I'll show you the steps using the Format pull-down and changing things that way. So after that, I go into Drawing Limits. So I go Format, Drawing Limits. Lower left is always 0, 0. Upper right, I'm going to calculate it. So I ask myself, how many 1/4 inches are in 22? The answer is 88. I'm using the foot method, so I go feet, comma, how many 1/4 inches are in 17? There are 68. 68, my answer is in feet. Hit enter. Now I've just set the drawing limits for 1/4 inch equals a foot on a 22 by 17 sheet of paper. Okay? Always do your units first before you set your limits, because if you don't, AutoCAD will not recognize the foot mark or the apostrophe as the foot mark, and it'll give you an error message. It'll say numeric error. So I set the units first, then I set my drawing limits, set my grid and snap. Well, you want to make sure that you do this because the default for grid is a 0.5, and in this case it'll be 0.5 inches. Okay, so that's a 1/2 inch. Well, if my drawing sheet now is 88 feet by 68 feet, I'd have a lot of dots if there's going to be a dot every 1/2 inch. So probably what I want to do is I'll go to Grid, turn it on, and it looks like it's fine, but I'm going to right click, go to Settings, and I'm going to change that to 12, which is the same as 1 foot. And I'll say OK. Now notice the grid went away, but you'll see it here in a minute. The next thing I do is change or set my LT scale. LTS at the keyboard, hit enter. Line type scale, enter new line type scale factor. It's set to 1 to begin with, so the scale factor for 1/4 inch equals a foot, you ask yourself, how many 1/4 inches are in 1 foot? The answer is 48. So my line type scale should be set at 48 because that's the same as the scale factor of the drawing. Hit enter. After I've done those things, I've set my units, I've set my limits, I've set my grid, and my LT scale. If you want to set snap, that's optional, but most of the time in architectural drawing you won't use snap. It won't be beneficial to you. So I'm going to leave that set off, and I'm going to do a zoom all. So I'll type Z, enter, A, enter. Now it's zoomed out to show the entire drawing limits. And each one of those dots are 1 foot on center. Now way down in the corner you probably see a dot. Now I'll use my mouse wheel to zoom up on that. But there is my, where it said 22 by 7 sheet size, way down in the corner of that drawing. I'll Z, enter, A, enter again, so you get an idea of how small in relationship to the entire drawing sheet that text was. So I'll leave that there for now, and we'll continue on. There's also the status command, which will be coming up in Chapter 17 that you can type in. You just type in status at the command line, hit enter, and it brings up the AutoCAD text window to show you some information about the drawing. It just gives you information about what is the drawing limits set at, what's the current layer and the current line type and line weight and stuff, other information about the drawing, what's the grid and snap set to. So that is the status command that gives you this information about the drawing setup. Hit F2 to make that go away. I'm going to continue going, and you'd also probably want to set some of your running object snaps. I'm going to go to OSnap, set the settings there. Endpoint, midpoint, center point, quadrant, intersection. Those are pretty typical for drawing floor plans, so I'm going to say OK to that. Leave those set. And then the next thing would be to set up some layers. So I go to my Layer Properties Manager. Pops up on the screen. I'm going to want to create some new layers. I'll create a layer called Walls. Enter. Create another layer called Doors. Enter. Create another layer called Windows. Another layer called Text. Another one called Dimensions. What else should we have? Symbols. fixtures, and T block or title block. I created a bunch of different layers. Under the walls, I misspelled it here, so you could always go in and change the name of something. Whether you want to call it walls, or maybe you just want to call it wall. Anytime you can change those sorts of things. The walls I'm going to leave to white. The doors I'll make red. The windows I'm going to make yellow. The text I'll make magenta. The dimensions I'll make blue. The symbols, I'll make the symbols yellow. Fixtures I'll make green. And the title block we'll do cyan. I've used one of every color. Everything's continuous line type. Line weights. Walls I want a little bit thicker. I'm going to make those a 0.5. Doors thinner, maybe like a 0.25. Windows, same thing, 0.25. Text, about a 0.3 should be good. Dimensions are usually lighter, so I'm going to make those like a 0.09. Symbols you want very thin, so I'm going to make those like a 0.05. And fixtures, 0.15. And a title block pretty thick, make that 0.7. So you can see that a little bit better. I'll drag this over so you can see it better. The line weights. I want everything to plot, and the descriptions will be the same as the text. I want to add one more layer. I'm going to call it hidden, just in case I have any hidden lines. And I'm going to change the color to red. Say OK. Line type. I'm going to load a hidden line type. I'll go hidden 2. OK. Select hidden 2. OK. And for thickness, maybe I'll go with like a 0.20. So I just set up some random layers for a floor plan. I've given them colors. I've selected line types. I've also selected the line weights and what might be some good practice. But again, that's going to be personal preference or whatever the instructor sets or whatever your company that you work for sets as a standard. After I'm all done, I say apply and OK. So I have all my layers. I can check the drop-down box to see that they're there. Now the other things that you would do is you would create text styles and dimension styles. Well, text styles will come up in a later chapter, and the same thing with dimension styles. Title blocks will also come up in a later chapter. So at this point, I'm going to assume that I'm just going to do those, and I would save this. So to save this, I go to File, Save As, and under the File, Save As Drawing dialog box, the Save As type. I do not want to save this as a DWG file because it's not a drawing file. I created a template file. So I click down on the I'm going to move this up to the top so that you can see it. I'm going to click down on the drop-down box. And when I click down on the drop-down box, I will see AutoCAD Drawing Template, or *.dwt file. When I click on that, it always goes to the template folder for saving in. But if you want to save it to where you're saving your other drawings, and you probably do, then you can click the drop-down box to go there, or you can also go over here and click where it says like My CAD files. Or, like I said, you can go to the drop-down box and you can place it somewhere specific. So again, this is in my laptop or my computer, my filing system. So if I wanted to save it into the CAD 120, I'll just place it in there. But you should place it with your other drawing files. I'm going to give it a name. We'll call it Floor Plan Template. And I'm going to say -48. So I know that's a 1/4 inch equals a foot scale. 48 is the scale factor of that drawing. I hit Save. Now it says that you can give this template a description if I wanted to. Okay, so it says normal English, feet and inches drawing template, uses color-dependent plot styles, so it gives me some information about the drawing. I'm also going to say to be used for floor plans, period. And I'm going to say OK. Now I've created my first drawing template file. I'm going to close that drawing template file now that I saved it. And if I go to Start a New Drawing, I could start a new drawing from scratch, or I can go File, New, and I could say Start a Drawing using a template file. Now, if I would have saved it in the template folder, it would be right here. Maybe I should have done that. But it could also get mixed in with a lot of other files, so I put it in a folder where I knew where it was. So I go to Browse. So you would want to browse yours, and you want to go and find the folder that you put it in. I put mine in my CAD 120 folder. You put yours somewhere on your computer, probably in the My CAD Files folder. There it is, Floor Plan Template -48. When I do that, notice up at the title bar, it doesn't say that this is the floor plan template drawing. It says drawing 4, or it might in your case say drawing 1, or 2, or 3, or 4. All that means is it started based on that drawing template, and you can tell because I have all the layers in there. But now if I go save, it says it goes to the Save As Drawing file, and it forces me to give that drawing file a name. So maybe I want to call it the Smith House. Whatever the drawing name is that I'm drawing that project. I'll put Smith House 05. I'll hit save. So now I'm going to draw the Smith House, and I would begin drawing. The idea behind template files is that everything is already set up for you. You can simply start using the template and go right to drawing objects or entities on your screen and not worry about setup time. So it's simply for time savings. That could save you anywhere from 5, 10, 15, maybe even 20 minutes on more complex drawings if everything's been set up for you. It'll really save you time when you're beginners like that and have trouble setting things up. It'll save you a lot of time because it'll be all done for you. So that is creating and using template files. If you have any questions, make sure to contact me. And this will end the presentation for creating template files.